I met Emma on a September morning, when the sunlight was just beautiful enough to make you believe autumn would be gentle. I was standing in front of the university library, arms full of second-hand books, trying to convince myself that this new school year would be different. That I'd be less shy, less silent, less of a shadow behind conversations I never dared join. Then she stepped out of the door. Light brown hair flicked to one side as if by accident, black headphones on her ears, lips moving softly to the music. A perfectly ordinary moment for the world, but not for me. There was something in her smile, light, fleeting, strangely warm, that touched a place I thought I'd locked away long ago. I didn't fall in love at first sight. Not the thunderbolt kind everyone talks about. But there was something. Something that made me look a second longer. Just 1 second, but enough for me to remember her clearly. She bumped into the glass door and almost dropped her laptop. I instinctively ran to help, but I was slower than the tall guy nearby. He laughed, said something to her. She laughed back. And I stood farther away, clutching my books like an invisible extra in a movie scene that wasn't meant for me. I didn't know they were already dating. But when I found out, I wasn't surprised. People like Emma always belong with people like him, confident, easy, with voices that pull you in and footsteps that always move forward. While I always seemed one step behind the world. That day I went back to the dorm earlier than usual. Opened my laptop, played music but didn't hear it. Opened books but couldn't read a word. The whole day froze because of one brief moment. I never guessed that Emma would become the person I'd silently write dozens of unsent letters to. The person I only dared love from a distance, literally. The person who, when too close, made me forget how to speak. I didn't know any of that yet. I only knew one thing. I wanted to see her again. And I did. The second time was in Psychology 101. I walked in and took my usual back row seat, the habit of someone who prefers disappearing. As I pulled out my laptop, I heard a chair shift in front of me. I looked up, it was Emma. Same hair, same cream-colored oversized sweater, same simple watch on her wrist, everything more familiar than I expected. I tried not to stare. Really. But sometimes you can't control where your eyes go. She was laughing with the person next to her, her voice light like a sad acoustic song I wanted to listen to on repeat. Roll call began. I answered so quietly they had to ask again. Emma turned around. Just for a second. But it was enough to freeze me. I don't know why, but her brown eyes always seemed to know more than people thought. Looking into them felt like being seen through all my awkwardness, all the empty spaces inside me. I quickly looked down, pretending to type something. My hands shook slightly. It sounds ridiculous. I was 20. Not a 13-year-old boy with his first crush. But that's exactly how it was. Some people walk into your life and, without doing much, just by existing in front of you, make you terrified they'll realize you like them. Class ended. I was standing up when Emma turned and said, "Your laptop, it's still on." Her voice was warm. Closer than I expected. I looked up, tried to smile normally. "Oh, yeah. Thanks." Why was I shaking? She nodded lightly and walked away. A faint scent passed, something like pine wood mixed with flowers, enough that I knew I'd never forget it. I watched her back disappear from the classroom and wondered. Is this the beginning of the most beautiful trouble of my life? I didn't know. But I was right. I didn't plan to run into Emma after every class, but somehow we always ended up walking the same direction. Not like in movies where people orchestrate it. Completely by chance. Or at least that's what I told myself. The third time, I stepped out and saw her in the hallway struggling with a water bottle cap. She turned, recognized me. "Hey. You're in this class too?" I laughed softly. The question was kind of funny since we'd already sat near each other twice. "Yeah. Guess so." Emma looked at me for a second, then burst out laughing. Her laugh always made the room a little brighter, or maybe that was just how I felt. But it made me want to hold on to that moment longer. We walked out of the building together. She asked my name, my major, which dorm I lived in. She asked a lot. I answered slowly, trying to sound normal even though my heart was sprinting. You always sit in the back, she asked. I'm used to it. Why? Like the quiet. More like, scared of being noticed. Emma turned and looked at me longer than usual, as if what I said truly interested her. I think, she said softly, someone as kind as you, deserves to be noticed. I froze for half a second. Kind. A simple word. But coming from Emma, it gently destroyed me. We reached the fork where she turned right and I turned left. Emma waved. See you in class. I nodded. A few seconds later, I realized I was smiling alone in the middle of campus. But that warm feeling only lasted until I saw her boyfriend jogging toward her. He came up behind her and hugged her. Emma laughed and hugged back. They looked perfect. Meant for each other. The kind of couple you only have to glance at to know they belong together. I stood in the middle of the path, my heart sinking a little. Not shattering pain. Just a quiet drop that made the afternoon a shade darker. The next day, we met again. And the days after that. Emma talked to me more sometimes in class, sometimes on the walk, sometimes in the library when we ran into each other. For some reason she always made silence between us feel comfortable. And I, slowly opened up. Slowly got used to her presence until it became frighteningly familiar. One time I was studying in the library when Emma sat across from me, pulled out a granola bar and placed it on my side of the table. For you. You look like you're about to pass out from low blood sugar. I laughed. Do I look that bad? Not bad, she said. Just, you always seem to carry the whole world in your head. You need energy. She ate hers, I ate mine. We talked about assignments, professors, the weather. All very ordinary. Ordinary in a dangerous way. Because I knew I was starting to like her in a way I shouldn't. At the end she asked. Free next week? Want to study together? My heart skipped. Yeah, I'm free. She smiled. Cool. See you. When I reached the library door, I saw her boyfriend Luke leaning against a pillar, hands in pockets, smiling when he saw her. She ran to him and gave him a light hug. They whispered something intimate. Then Luke kissed her forehead. I stood a few steps away, pretending to fix my shoelaces so I wouldn't have to look. When I looked up, Emma saw me. She waved, still smiling beautifully. See you. I nodded, trying to swallow the thing spreading in my chest. I knew my feelings for Emma shouldn't exist. But sometimes the heart forgets logic. Forgets boundaries. Forgets that it's only hurting itself. And I knew. If I kept getting closer, there would be no way back. But I kept walking forward. No turning back. The following weeks passed like pages flipped by the wind. Emma and I studied together a few times, sat at the same table in class, sometimes walked across campus after lessons. Everything between us was nothing special, yet no longer distant. The feeling was strange. It wasn't love. It was hope. The weakest and most dangerous thing. Our first study group was at a small cafe beside campus. Dim yellow lights, coffee mixed with vanilla scent making the air soft. When I arrived, Emma was already there, legs tucked up on the chair, reading notes. She looked up. I ordered you a hot chocolate. Guessed you don't like strong coffee. I laughed. She was right. I don't know how Emma always knew little things about people, even when they never said anything. Thanks, I said. We started working. She asked, I explained. I asked, she explained. The atmosphere was light, no pressure. Sometimes her hand accidentally brushed mine when passing a pen or turning the laptop. Each time I had to stop myself from reacting too much. In the middle of concentrating, Emma suddenly looked up. You know, talking to you is really easy. I froze for a second. Easy, How? Yeah. You listen. Most people just wait for their turn to speak. But you actually listen. She smiled. Soft. But so genuine. My heart pounded so hard I had to force it down. Because I knew I shouldn't let that sentence give me hope. But people aren't as good at controlling things as we think. The session ended at 9 p.m. We stepped outside. The night was cool, occasional breeze lifting Emma's hair. She asked, "Have you ever been in love?" The question caught me off guard. Yes. But, one-sided. Emma slowed her steps, waiting for more. I liked someone, for a long time, I said. But she was never mine. Emma was quiet for a few seconds. Then. She's lucky. I almost laughed. If only she knew she was her. But I didn't say it. Never. That night, back in the dorm, my mind was full of noise. I opened a blank document and started typing. Not a letter to Emma. Not a diary. Not a confession. Just words I didn't dare say out loud. Sometimes I wish you knew, but I'm also terrified you'd know. Because what if once you knew, you left? I typed, deleted, typed again. Finally saved it as, letter_untold_01. I didn't know there would soon be an entire folder of them. 2 days later, something small became a turning point. During class, the professor suddenly paired us for an assignment. Emma turned to me immediately, as if it was obvious. Together. I nodded, surprised she didn't even consider anyone else. While working, I noticed a message from Luke flash on her phone. Done yet? Waiting outside. And then, Emma turned the screen off and kept talking to me. It wasn't a big deal. But it made me happy. Happy in a way I shouldn't be. At the end of class she said, "This was fun. Can we continue tomorrow?" I knew she had a boyfriend. I knew I should keep distance. But I nodded. I always nodded when it came to Emma. After class we happened to walk down the stairs together. The sky was overcast, about to rain. Emma pulled her jacket closer. I was about to say something when Luke appeared at the bottom of the stairs. He looked at me first, not hostile, but enough to remind me I was an outsider. Emma smiled. "Hey babe." Luke hugged her lightly, then turned to me. "You're in Emma's class." "Yeah." "Cool." "You are." "Just a classmate," Emma said quickly. I don't know why those words hurt a little. Just a classmate. Accurate, reasonable, precise, but it felt like a wall built right between us. Luke extended his hand. "I'm Luke." I shook it. "Adrian." He smiled politely. Then put his arm around Emma. And I just stood there, watching them walk away together. In that moment I wondered. If they're so happy, why does she make me hope? Or is it only me feeling this way? I had no answer. But I knew one thing. I was falling deeper. And Emma had no idea. Midterms approached. Campus was a beehive, everyone clutching laptops hunting for empty tables. Emma and I agreed to study in the library as usual. Cafe full, study hall full, only the quiet third floor had space. Emma sat by the window, knees drawn up in adorable habit, hair falling over half her face. She was biting her pen, another small thing I liked more than I should. "Stressed this term?" I asked. Emma sighed. "I'm always stressed." "Why?" She shrugged. "Luke says I overthink. But, sometimes I feel like I'm not as good as people think." I looked at her for a long time. She stared out the window, brown eyes strangely sad. I said slowly, "Emma is one of the hardest working people I've ever met." She turned, surprised I'd say something so kind. "How do you know?" "I never said anything." "I can see it," I replied. "You don't have to say." It was the first time I called her you formally when being serious. Emma didn't laugh. She looked at me for a long time, eyes softening the way someone does when they feel truly understood without explanation. I like the way you see me differently, Emma said quietly. I could barely breathe. Differently, how? You don't see me as perfect, she said. You see the real me. Those words cut me beautifully sharp, but something I wanted to hold on to. We kept working. After a while Emma rested her head on the table, half joking. I'm so tired, 5-minute nap. Go ahead. For some reason, she leaned her head on my shoulder. I froze completely, afraid to breathe. My shoulder was tense as a wire, hands trembling slightly on the table. But Emma was perfectly relaxed, as if it was the most natural thing. You don't mind, right? She murmured, eyes already closed. No. I lied. I did mind. Mind in the unbearable way. Mind because I liked it. Because I wanted the moment to last but knew it couldn't. I don't know if she actually slept or just rested, but her breathing was steady against my neck, making my heart beat so loud I was sure she could hear. A few minutes later she sat up slowly. Sorry. I crossed a line, didn't I? No. I lied again. Emma tugged lightly at my sweater sleeve and smiled. You always say so little, but you're so kind. That made me turn away, pretending to look at my notes to hide whatever was rising in my eyes. That evening as we packed up, Emma suddenly said, I'm starving, want to grab food. I wanted to say yes so badly. But Luke's waiting to take me to dinner. She gave an awkward smile. I mean, if you're free after. I shook my head. It's okay. Go with him. See you tomorrow. Emma bit her lip, looking a little sad, or maybe I imagined it. She put on her backpack, looked at me longer than necessary. Adrian. If I didn't have a boyfriend, do you think we'd be good together? The question exploded in my chest. I stood frozen for several seconds. Emma wasn't joking, her eyes were too real. Why ask that? I managed. I don't know. She smiled faintly, sadly. Sometimes you make me feel, if life had chosen just a little differently, everything might be different. I didn't dare answer. If I answered, everything would break. For me. For her. For the boyfriend waiting somewhere outside. In the end I only said, life didn't choose differently. Emma looked at me for a moment. Her eyes seemed to want to say something. Then she turned and left. I walked back to the dorm under dim yellow streetlights. The cold air cleared my head, but not enough to ease the thing growing in my heart, something that no longer fit inside my chest. That night I opened letter _untold_02. You have no idea, Emma. One question from you is enough to keep me awake for a month. I deleted you and wrote she instead. Just to hurt a little less. The next day I arrived to class early. Emma was already there, staring out the window. Morning light fell on her hair, so beautiful I had to pause. She turned, smiled, but not her usual smile. Softer. Sadder. I thought a lot last night, she said. Why? Emma played with her bracelet. I think it's bad that I'm confusing you. My heart jumped. I'm not confused. You are, Emma smiled. I can see it. I didn't know what to say. I just looked down at the desk. Adrian, she said quietly, you're someone I really, really care about. She paused. Took a deep breath. And that's exactly why. I'm afraid I'm going too far. My heart sank gently. Not crushing pain. Just disappointment that the tiny hope I'd allowed myself was gone. I asked. Do you want distance? Emma looked at me in the eye, painfully honest. I don't want to, but maybe I should. In that moment I saw clearly. Even the smallest hope can kill you from the inside. From here the story shifts perspective to an earlier, similar unrequited love, the same pattern, same pain, same silence. I don't remember exactly when I started liking you. Maybe that golden afternoon in the library when you sat across from me, chin in hand, reading, hair falling over one cheek. Some guy passed and teased you. You laughed softly, but enough to make my chest ripple like a pond hit by a pebble. I looked too long. You looked up, our eyes met, and I turned away like I'd been caught committing a crime. From that afternoon, I became afraid. Afraid that if I admitted my feelings, everything would be ruined. Afraid that one wrong step and I'd lose you forever. So I chose silence. I talked to you like a normal friend, acted relaxed, even though every time you smiled my heart skipped. Every night I asked myself, if I told you, would anything change? But then I remembered how your eyes lit up when you talked about him, the person you liked. That look shrank the whole world down to one person. I stood outside that circle, unable to step in. So every afternoon we sat together at the cafe near campus. I wanted to speak but the words stuck in my throat. Once you showed me his messages, smiling, and asked, "Do you think he likes me?" I wanted to say, if it were me, who wouldn't like you? If it were me, I'd like you until I went crazy. But what came out was, probably. My answer made you happy. And another piece of me died quietly. Some love stories end with breakups. Mine ended before it even starting. Some days everything felt normal, and I thought I could forget. But then one tiny moment, one look, one sentence, one smile, and everything collapsed again. That day it was drizzling. The kind that wets your shirt but isn't enough for an umbrella. We stood together at the school gate, waiting for it to let up. I stood beside you, not touching, but close enough to make my heart chaos. You looked at the sky and sighed. Wish someone would walk me home. I hate this kind of rain. I was about to say, I can walk you. So easy. Anyone could say it. But before I could, your phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. You smiled, small, but real. He's asking me to dinner. Gotta go. You ran off into the rain, one hand over your head, the other hugging your bag. I stood there getting soaked to the shoulder without noticing. That's when I realized. It wasn't that I never had a chance to speak. It's that I was never important enough for you to stay and listen. I even comforted myself with the usual line. It's fine. I'm used to it. But I wasn't. I was just good at hiding. That night you texted, "Don't forget to bring my book tomorrow, okay?" Today was so fun. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then replied, "Yeah. I'll bring it." Simple. Light. But my heart cracked a thin, invisible line. No one saw. Not even you. The day arrived gently, almost cruelly. No storm. No warning. Just a normal morning, normal sun, normal hallway. But my heart was no longer normal. I was having coffee when a mutual friend texted, "Dude, guess what, they're official now." I read it once. Didn't need to read again. The words were clear enough to empty me out. I didn't reply. I just set the phone down and watched the steam rise from my cup, then vanish exactly like whatever feeling you had for me, gone before I could touch it. That day in class you ran up, arms full of papers, face glowing like a child with a new gift. Listen to this. I knew what you were about to say. But I still stood there, still smiled, still acted calm even though my chest was being squeezed. He and I, we're official now. Your voice was soft, but enough to collapse my entire world. I nodded. Very lightly. A nod I practiced so it wouldn't shake. Yeah. Congratulations. 4 words. The hardest 4 words I've ever said. You hugged me. A quick, carefree friend hug, the kind you give when you're excited to share good news. You had no idea that hug would keep me awake all night. That night I walked alone along the dorm road. Cold wind. Falling leaves. Yellow lights flickering on the sidewalk. Anyone looking would think I was just taking a stroll. But I was trying to keep myself from completely breaking. I'd always thought I was stronger. That I was good at bearing pain, hiding feelings, being the one left behind. But 3 little words, they're together now, and I wasn't strong at all. That night I turned my phone face down, ignored everyone. I stared at your message for a long time, though it was only, "Thank you for always supporting me, yellow heart." I wanted to write back. I never supported it. I just didn't dare do anything else. But in the end I just left it unseen. You were happy. And I stayed silent, because silence was the only thing I could give without making you sad. The days after, I learned to breathe again. Not because I wanted to, but because every time I saw you my chest tightened so much I had to look away. No one knew, not even you. I buried everything under ordinary sentences, faint smiles, excuses to avoid meeting. I'm not a good actor, but I'm excellent at hiding. I was born for the role of the person outside the frame. You told me more about your boyfriend. About dinners, long talks, how he held your hand crossing the street. You told me with sparkling eyes, excited voice, sometimes laughing out loud without care. And I listened. Only listened. Trying not to clench my fists. Once you asked, "Do you think he loves me a lot?" I looked at you. At the brown eyes I could have written a whole book about. And I answered, "Yeah. He loves you so much." When really I loved you even more. But saying it would have been pointless. Some nights you video called just to chat. You had no idea that every time I saw your smile through the screen, I had to stop myself from saying, "I miss you." But I never said it. I wasn't allowed. Gradually you called less. Texted less. And I knew not that you forgot me, but that you were living in your new joy. I understood. I accepted. But accepting doesn't mean it stops hurting. One day I realized, I have to step back. Really far back. Not because I stopped loving you. But because I loved you enough not to want to become something that made you uncomfortable. So I started disappearing slowly. Answering texts later. Pretending to be busy. Pretending to sleep early. Pretending I was fine. I practiced living without waiting for your notifications. Walking past places we used to go together without hurting. Getting used to standing outside your life. But every night before sleep I still asked the question I never dared voice. If I had spoken that day, would it have been different? I know the answer. But my heart keeps asking anyway. I never know when the final moment comes. It doesn't announce itself. Doesn't knock. Doesn't give you time to prepare. It came on a random Saturday afternoon when you invited me to eat with the group. I was about to decline. I'd been finding excuses to avoid you, afraid my stupid heart would hurt again, but you added, "Come on. It's been forever." 4 little words, it's been forever, and I couldn't say no. So I went. The restaurant was quiet. Our table by the window, late sunlight spilling like thin honey. You sat across from me, hair tied high, face bright, smile familiar. I looked at you. Not stealing glances, I looked properly. Memorizing every detail I knew I'd have to forget soon. Your soft brown eyes. The way your lips curved when you talked. How you tilted your head when listening. Your fingers laced when thinking. I looked at everything. Slowly. For the first time. I didn't look away. Maybe because my heart was too tired to hide anymore. Then your boyfriend arrived. He pulled a chair beside you, hand naturally on your shoulder, and you leaned into his arm. Natural. Familiar. Like you'd always belonged together. I didn't feel jealous. I just felt strangely peaceful. As if I was finally witnessing what you were always meant to have. As if you were truly happy, not pretending, but full, overflowing, undeniable happiness. You looked at me and smiled brightly. See? We're good together, right? I nodded. Gently. In that moment, I knew I had to let go. Not because I wanted to, but because I had no right to hold on. When everyone left, I stayed a few minutes longer. You walked out first with him. Before leaving, you turned back and waved. That tiny wave somehow carved itself deep into my memory. I watched you walk away with the person you chose. Two small silhouettes under golden lights. And I knew. This was the last time I'd look at you with the eyes of someone who loves you. From tomorrow, I would look at you with the eyes of someone who once loved you. Very different. One hurts because it wants to hold. The other hurts because it has to learn to release. That night I walked home very slowly. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just felt my heart grow lighter, the lightness of finally accepting that my heart, lost to fate. I wrote this letter on a very quiet night. No cars, no wind, only the sound of pen on paper and my heartbeat slowing strangely. I don't know why I wrote tonight, maybe because after that last meeting something inside me was about to overflow. But this letter, I know I will never send it. I just needed to write it, to know that I once loved someone this much. To you, the person I loved more than myself. If this letter ever reaches you, it means I finally became braver. But I was never that brave. Thank you. Thank you for accidentally walking into my life and lighting up a time I thought would stay ordinary. Thank you for the afternoons spent together, the small talks, the smiles I've kept like treasures. I used to think that if you ever left, I would fall apart. But today, seeing you happy with the person you chose, my heart grew quiet, then lighter. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I hope someday, if anyone asks you about someone who loved you silently for a very long time, you'll remember me with a gentle smile, not regret. I never wanted my feelings to burden you. I only wanted them to become a beautiful, slightly sad part of the past with no regrets. If there is a next life, another chance. And if I am braver than I am now, I hope we meet again, at a different time, when I can finally say, I like you. I choose you. I want to be with you. But not this life. This life I choose silence. And I choose to love you from afar by leaving your life as gently as possible. Be happy. Truly happy, even if it's not with me. From the person who loved you so much he never dared to speak. I folded the letter, put it in the drawer. Never sent. Never tore it. Just kept it, like keeping a piece of my heart. That night, for the first time in months, I slept deeply. Didn't dream of you. Didn't hurt anymore. Only peace. The peace of someone who finally learned to let go.